are live.
We are
Hooray.
live.
We are live. Hello, everyone. So I am really happy to welcome poet, novelist, and founder of the Alliance of Independent Authors, Orna Ross, to a conversation with me. Thanks, Orna. Thanks for coming along. Have you done one? Have you done one of these before? Have you done one of these?
I haven't done a Substack live. No, I'm a very new entrant to Substack, and I'm not even sure if it's going to be my thing or not. I am seeking.
Okay.
I am seeking an alternative to
Mm.
my old social media, which I've kind of deserted en masse now.
Okay.
So it may be.
Were you before then?
I was on Instagram for poetry largely, a bit of a presence on Facebook, but Instagram was my main one, and Twitter, of course. I left Twitter when Mr. Musk took over.
Yes, likewise. And you Blue Sky? I mean,
No,
Blue Sky's a funny place, isn't it? There's about 3 of us there, but it's quite nice.
I haven't gone to Blue Sky. I'm just kind of rethinking the whole. I'm taking a summer to rethink everything. So I'm just exploring at the moment. So I'm not sure where I'll end up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I find, and I know, I think other kind of long-time Substackers will echo this, that in many ways, Substack works the best when you make it your mothership.
Right.
And that even includes I satellite out to my website and I satellite out to LinkedIn, which has got a kind of hilarious ancient form to it, but is actually one of the safest messaging platforms out there.
Sure.
Hold the front page to everybody. And also to Instagram and a bit of Blue Sky. But I use Substack as my sort of central hub. And I thought a lot of independent authors are obviously kind of coming to that conclusion because you can, the platform is so geared towards us, and however hard we work, that's how much visibility we get. And so in that way, it's a meritocracy. So it'll be interesting for me to watch to see whether that's, because I can see, so you've been there a little while, but you haven't quite jumped in yet and fallen in love with it. Is that?
No, I've just put up some videos. I was thinking of using it for one aspect of my work, rather than everything. I think it would be a good home for Ally too.
Well, I was thinking, yes. Yeah. So just for those listening who don't know, Ally is it's not quite the initials, is it? But it's like it's the known name of the Alliance of Independent Authors, Ally, which is a lovely way of shortening it down.
Yeah.
So we'll be referring to it as Ally.
It's kind of all and I is the idea. And then we
it's
are
really lovely.
We are the
and
ally.
You are our allies. Yeah. So on that front, is that at the moment on the Ally website, I don't see any sort of Substack alliance or. So what are your thoughts around building those bridges and how Substack might be sort of not brought into Ally, but how Ally might send people to Substack, or at least tell other authors about Substack? What's your thinking around that?
Yes, I mean, Substack is mentioned in our, marketing webinars and in our marketing guides and stuff like that. So we see the good work that's happening there. And I think the great thing about Substack is that it's certainly when it started, it was very much a text-based platform, which made it a very good platform for those people who create long form text, i.e. books. So books aren't necessarily even long form anymore. The word is now being used so loosely. But anyway, that's another story. So and now I see though that Substack is also very much coming in on the audio and the video, allowing people to consume whichever way they wish, which is absolutely fine. So it has changed that slightly. So, to your point of, do you go all in on Substack? One of the main things that we're always saying to the authors is, have your hub. And again, the great thing about Substack is you own the data, the all important email address, contact. So from that point,
that's the absolutely crucial bit.
Yeah. Exactly. So from that point of view, there's absolutely nothing to stop us going all in. We just haven't gone there. We're still in the exploration stage, and there's no crazy rush. I know people are always saying the gold rush is over wherever, on every platform, but it never is.
No. No, I mean, I've seen Substack. I've been here since I think 22, and I've seen it change. And it's just all it's done is change. It hasn't gotten either better or worse. It's just changed and it's morphed and it's grown and it's evolved, and so it should. What has remained absolutely true is that it is author led and author generated, and we own our data, and there's no advertising. And so, yes, I'm all for some huge names have joined. They've brought in things like this live, which kind of takes it into a sort of TikTok. So it's moving around. Obviously, Notes came a few years ago, which gave it a kind of Twitter feel. So it's, for my money, I think, it's morphing in all the right directions, but retaining that true north, which makes it feel like this magic pool where we all meet each other.
That's great.
So,
great.
Yeah. I mean, it's worked for me. I mean, certainly in terms of bringing my work here, I was getting, I think we've spoken before about it. I was getting all kinds of rejections from the mainstream. And so I brought my work here and serialized it, and that completely transformed everything. And then my latest book has been picked up by a publisher in America, so Empress Editions. So, and there's lots of stories like mine happening. But can we just roll back? I just wondered, using Writerly Talk, what was the inciting incident to starting Ally in the first place?
Yeah, I started self-publishing, so the magic of it through Substack. I found the magic of it through Amazon KDP back in the day, when all you had to do was put a fairly decent book up there and you got readers. And so I took my rights pretty quickly back from my publisher. We were not having, we had kind of got to a certain place anyway. I wasn't losing a lot by doing that, I felt. And I was just completely taken aback by, what was possible through self-publishing, because I had worked as a literary agent briefly in Dublin for a couple of years. So I knew the importance of rights, the rights holder being the key, and holding the rights being the key to publishing and the key to making a living out of publishing. So it all seemed super exciting to me, and I looked for an association to join, and there wasn't one. Well, there were a few, but not doing it as I kind of felt it needed to be done, or as I wanted it to be done, I suppose is a better way to put it. So I did kind of pause and say, do I really want to do this to myself? I had no illusions about what it would be, even though I didn't expect it to be as big as it was, but I knew it would be work and significant work, and that it would keep changing. And I think that's the biggest thing that keeps the work coming. It just doesn't stay still for 5 minutes. But anyway, we leaped in and set up. And my husband Philip does all the business side, so which was great. We needed that, and we have been working with everyone else in the business is an indie author themselves. And they're all very specialist. They do very specialist things. So, John Doppler runs our watchdog desk, which is where we keep an eye on the industry. We have our ethical code of standards for partner members and also for authors. And John heads up the watchdog. We have Matty on campaigns, where we're looking at, opening up to indie authors in literary festivals and events and prizes. You and I have discussed that.
We certainly have.
Something exciting might happen there sometime.
Good.
Yes. Well, we'll have a little try, and so on. So we have quite an extensive team. Around the team, there's a band of advisors, and around the advisors, then there are our wonderful members, many of whom are advisors themselves and who are super generous in giving back to people who are just starting out. So it's a beautiful place to be working and watching what's happening in the creative field generally, and to writers specifically.
I mean, it's huge. Did you ever dream? It's global and comprehensive. Is that something you understood would happen back in 2012?
I knew it would be global because one of the first things we started saying was there's no such place as abroad, and we live on the internet. We live on the internet.
Yep.
So, once we were talking digital books, at that time it was very much about ebooks, but of course, audiobooks subsequently went digital too. And then POD was already in place, but began to, we got better services around POD. So,
Mm.
yeah, I knew it wouldn't be confined. And that was a big part of the attraction for me, always has been. I love that aspect of independent
Mm.
publishing because, again, of the different kind of I mean, for me, the driver is all about accessibility, democratization. I'm Irish, bit of a rebel. So, it was all very much about that. That's my own personal motivation. Of course, it's not about me now at all. It's a big organization with its own identity and entity, and it operates from there over there, if you like. But that was my own personal motivation in getting into it, and that's what keeps me there today, and that's why I can't see that I'll ever want to step back. Though someday I will have to. I know.
Well, you are the figurehead, but that question of whether one tries to ape the mainstream or break the mold completely and do it yourself seems to be quite prescient for all indie authors. So, is that in terms of Ally? Would you say Ally's position is to break down those? We'll do it, to kind of break all those rules rather than ape a system. Try and get into
Sure.
the castle.
Yeah, it's definitely so. The way we think about it is that because of, previous tools and systems and processes were not so creative friendly,
Mm.
the creator was the last person in the value chain and had very little power.
Yeah.
So, everybody else got paid first, everybody else made the decisions. I mean, I remember my absolute shock when I was told I wasn't going to be attending the marketing meeting, which would decide how my books were positioned, despite
Shocking.
despite having worked as a literary agent, as I said, for 20 for a couple of years, but as a journalist, a book reviewer. I mean, I don't think there's a job, an editor. I don't think there's a job in the literary field that I hadn't done at that.
Yeah.
And yet I wasn't seen as useful at that meeting. That was just back long before I went indie. But yeah, so what we do is rather than seeing it as sort of there's a big castle and we're breaking it down or disrupting or breaking the mold, what we're really doing is shifting things back to where they ought to be, where the creative is the creative director of the business as well as the book. And there is totally need for, so we reposition them mentally as third party publishers. So the first party publisher is a person who publishes their own work, and that could be an individual, that could be an organization. Using then another party to come in who will in some way benefit financially from that. You need to know what they're bringing to the table. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's authors themselves who are their own worst enemies often, either through not knowing or not having the confidence or needing validation of somebody to say, yes, your book is good.
Yeah.
That's the question that authors are consumed with, but that's not the question that publishing thinks about. And, when
No.
you become a publisher, you have to start to think quite differently to that.
Mm.
So it isn't so much storming the castle and breaking it down as just turning things around so that it's author first. And then you pull in, if a trade publisher makes you an offer, as you have had happen on Substack, well, then you sit down with them. And now you're having a very different conversation. First of all, they've come to you.
Yep.
You haven't gone to them. Secondly, you've got proven worth and value, and the confidence that comes from knowing that you have readers who care about you and care about your work. And so the conversation you have then is very different. You start talking about time. How long am I going to actually work with these people? How long will this contract be for? Territory. How much will we limit the territory? So if they're talking about print, if they have expertise in print in, say, the UK, where we are, fine. But do they have any expertise in the US? No. Well, then let's limit the rights, please, to the UK. So they'll come in wanting all territories. I mean, they've even included off planet on some contracts. I'm not kidding.
Good Lord.
I've seen it.
Wow.
in black and
Wow.
white. Yes.
My goodness.
And they
Which
want,
planets are they talking about? I
yeah,
wonder.
what planet are they on?
Yeah.
But
Jeez. Okay.
yeah, I know. So they want all
Yeah.
territories for all time, the life of copyright, as some
Yeah.
contracts still trying to pull that one. So
Mm,
it's your job as an author. Now, that's a big job.
mm,
You know, authors are not brought up to be familiar with publishing contracts.
no,
Actually, they're not magic and they're not that difficult to decipher once you actually get stuck into that job. But a lot of
mm,
writers don't want to do that. They have another book to write. And so that's one of the reasons that we exist. And we have, experts who can, that's another thing that we do, people who can analyze the contract for you, say whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and remind you of what we call selective rights licensing. So you select
mm,
which rights am I licensing here, and you limit everything else. You just draw a tight band around it. And
yeah.
that's what it means to be a good rights holder.
Mm,
So yeah, that's kind of selective rights licensing is the overall attitude to take. And in
mm,
order to hold that place, really in a genuine way, as you meet potential rights buyers and other interested parties, you got to build your confidence to
yeah.
be able to hold that place.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question, even though I went into being an independent author through feeling rejected by the mainstream, it opened my eyes to publishing as a whole. And I now feel, and I say this to anybody who does workshops with me, that we're all independent artists now. We all have to think like that, because my experience looking back in the mainstream, even though salts were wonderful, I'm very aware, and I have lots of friends who've been through this, that there's a kind of gauze, a kind of lie being told in the mainstream, that you're selling your rights, but somehow you still retain some sort of control, or you're some sort of involved. Of course, you're not. You and I both know that really clearly. But when you're an independent artist, there's no gauze, there's no lie. It's you, it's hard work, but you learn absolutely every part of the business. And that it was the best thing that could have happened to me without any question. So yeah, going into my new with Empress Editions, I knew what they came to me exactly. I knew what questions to ask. I had the contract looked over, all of that kind of stuff. So it really opened my eyes on that question of changing the framing rather than storming the barricades. I've got various questions from various other independent artists who've wanted me to put them to you, and one of them is from Michelle Howarth, who wrote the brilliant Glitterballs and gave me this badge. This is her marketing budget.
Amazing.
Genius, I know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she had gave me various questions, but one of them just come to mind. She's thinking for her next book of not using an ISBN at all, because it strikes her that although she'll lose gardeners, so she'll lose the kudos, she doesn't think that 40% is, that's not thrilling. It's not 40% thrilling enough. And actually, she's sold many more directly through her website than she has through gardeners putting it in various places. And as we all know, indies have a hell of a job getting their books into bookshops. You can get online. Bookshop.org is another whole conversation I'd love to have with you. But what's your view on that, changing that paradigm? Because we all assume ISBN is like, that's baseline.
Yeah, so at the moment we're still doing a conservative view on ISBNs. We have probably a conversation about this at least once a month, because we have some people on the team who are, completely ISBN free, but Allies Line is still by the ISBN. It's very cheap. You don't necessarily, that doesn't mean just because you bought it, you have to do Gardeners or Ingram or anybody else. You don't have to. But if and when there comes a time, when you might get an offer that is pleasing to you, it is still the indicator of record. So we have seen ISBNs, for
Mm.
example, help people when they have run into trouble with platforms in various ways, where people don't recognize the book is theirs, where somebody else has ripped the book off, all of that. It can help your conversations with other people in the book business. It still is the standard kind of measurement outside of, obviously Amazon doesn't use it, but still does
Mm.
refer to it. And so for the moment, we're keeping a conservative line on ISBN. So purchase the ISBN, put it on your format. It helps to distinguish between your different formats of the same title as well. So if somebody does want to take an order from you, even a bookshop wanted to order directly from you, skipping Gardeners, in order for them to make the order and not get, for example, the large print book instead of the standard paperback or the hardback or whatever. ISBNs are
Mm.
useful in distinguishing between format.
Mm.
So,
Okay. Okay, so Allies line is still as your absolute baseline.
well, I'm seeing Michelle coming in with a question here. So is it
Yeah.
okay
Do you
to,
want to answer it? Yeah,
pick
yeah.
up and answer that? So Michelle asks
Please
a
do.
very good question. If you have an ISBN, doesn't it mean you chose unavailable on Amazon? So we always recommend on Amazon that you use Amazon for the Amazon ecosystem. So use KDP POD for your books on Amazon. That is the best way, unless you've got an ideological objection to that, to the platform, or you don't really dislike POD and you want your own beautiful edition kind of thing. If you're coming in from outside, be that through Ingram Spark, be that through your own consignment or whatever, you will be treated differently on the Amazon platform. And sometimes the message is about unavailable, but more coming. Sometimes, they're always experimenting to see what message will actually work better for them. So, yeah, if you're serious about Amazon and you want to sell on the Amazon platform, then use Amazon's tools. It really is a bit of a closed loop.
Yeah.
And you can do that as well. You can use the same ISBN for your Amazon version. They will give you the ASIN, but you can use the same ISBN, thereby getting continuity across, which is another reason to have an ISBN, because it just keeps that continuity across the particular format, as we were saying. So, yeah, we would always advise to do both.
Okay, useful. And on that, in terms of the obstacles facing independent authors, Ally has done incredible things since 2012. But what would you say now are what are the most pressing obstacles for the independent author in gaining really, the things that we need, visibility and selling books? What's uppermost in your mind?
Yeah, so visibility in selling books is always a challenge for every single publisher,
Mm. Yeah.
always. And that's not going to go away. I always say there are two hard things in this job, and it's not what you think of when you first come to self publish, because you're consumed with things like ISBNs and covers and finding a good designer and when all of those are in place, you're left with writing and you're left with marketing and
Yeah.
promotion. And they're the
Yeah.
two never get easy, because they both pull on a very similar sort of thing, which is, how do I present myself to the reader? What is my voice? What am I saying? What is my value? Why am I even doing this?
Mm.
Those kinds of questions come up all the time with both marketing and
Mm.
so there are fundamental core things about book discovery that never change. You need to work
Mm.
out, what is the reader journey, what's your niche, who are your comparable authors, what are they doing, what's working now, looking at the bestsellers in your niche and working out what it is they do that you want to do, what it is they do that you don't want to do, and all the time refining, who am I, what am I doing, what is this latest book about, where is it going to go, where is it going to take me in a slightly different direction, where is it going to amplify what I have already created. And they are complex questions, and as I said, they don't get easy. Now, a big thing has come along that has made certain aspects of marketing, let's just talk about selling books for them in this moment,
Yeah.
easier, and that is AI. And that is
Yeah.
what we are very concerned about and thinking and talking a lot about at the moment. And because we are an association for working authors, and because our authors are self-starters, who know, a lot of them who, the ones who are doing well, they know what they're doing. Some of them are running 8-figure businesses, 7 figures, a few 6 figures, lots, and 5 figures. We more and more people doing that kind of turnover. So they know what they're doing. They know whether they want to use AI or not. They don't need us to tell them what to do in their business. And so we have taken a slightly different approach, as we often find ourselves slightly at variance with other author associations where the authors are mostly working with trade publishers. So we're redoing right now our marketing and promotion books to take in two things. How might I use, and we're not getting into whether you want to or you don't want to, but we're just providing the information. How might I use AI to make my life easier with some of the very many tasks around positioning, around aesthetic, around all the platform, those kinds of things. How might I use AI to make myself, to work better, work faster, whatever. But also hand in hand with that must go, how do I humanize what I'm doing? Because as we go forward and as AI is becoming already so prevalent, what readers are seeking more and more from authors is the human touch and doubling down on being human. Well, what does that actually? We're all saying it. It's double down on me, double down on being human. Okay, what does that actually
mean? What does that mean for you then? What does that mean for you?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Well, if I just finish off what I was saying about the marketing book, and then I'll talk about myself maybe.
Yeah.
So specifically what we're doing as we're going through the book is we are rewriting chapter by chapter and saying, how might AI help with this particular thing? Say understanding the reader journey or understanding what readers value in my book. And then how do I humanize? How do I, use that? And at the same time reassure the reader and fill my work really with what the machine can't do, because we have already got to the point that the machine can write faster or and turn out books quicker, and we've already got people at one end of the indie author world, though I don't think of them as independent authors so much as business people who are trying to turn a quick book, who are using AI to churn out and, making income from that.
Are they transparent about that?
Some
are
are,
spotting it.
Some are and some aren't.
Okay. And these are publishers or these are independent or these are individual authors?
Both.
Yeah. Because I did see a publishing house open up in America for guys who said, we are publishing AI generated books, deal with it.
Yes.
Well, it's transparent. Although I did notice, and I was pleased to see on the Ally website, you absolutely make a distinction between AI. Well, you say AI generated, not AI created.
Yeah,
which I think is a really important piece of wording right there.
Absolutely. There's so much important and subtlety and nuance around AI, so that anyone who's has very strong feelings and opinions is probably not engaging enough, because a lot, of course, we all have our opinions and there's a lot to think about and there's a lot to have an opinion about. But in terms of actually using it as in your work at a practical level, doing, I always feel for creatives, doing is better than thinking, in everything, and in AI as well, knowing what you're talking about, seeing what it actually does do, seeing how you can use it. These are questions which are completely separate from, was it okay that copyrighted books were used to train the AI? That's a completely different question. We probably won't even go there. And AI as a whole.
But I know you're doing a lot of work.
Yeah, we're doing.
You're campaigning, yes. Are you working alongside Kate Moss on that campaign, or that you're running parallel? Because I know, had been doing a lot of work in that area as well.
We support everybody who is working for authors in a way that we think is viable, in a way that we think is kind of moving in the right direction. So we can't do everything ourselves. We're picking one very particular area to look at and focus on, which is the compensation.
Compensation.
Yeah. So we're very much focused on that. And so we're working more with people who are focused on that particular aspect But of course, we
Okay.
support Kate and everybody else, every other
Mm.
authors association that's talking sense. I mean, there's
Mm.
some authors associations are not yet talking sense here. You know, they're talking like we have power that we don't have. They're talking like a boat that has sailed 10 years ago is in the dock, you know,
Okay.
so we
Yes, no, that
can't
ship has
actually.
definitely
Oh,
sailed, and I because I was happy to see that you're lobbying for clarity, consent, and compensation. Whether or not we'll get any of those, I thank you on behalf of all of us for lobbying, because like most authors, I have neither the time nor the skill to do what you're doing, and so we all really appreciate it. I also saw that you have guiding principles on Ally for the ethical use of AI. Do you want to just run us through those?
I think it's there. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I think the
Mhm.
main thing to say about AI is the main thing to say about marketing and writing as well, and about being an
Mhm.
author generally. The temptation is, you know, it makes things easier. And so, as a creative, there's, you know, being creative is hard.
Mhm.
Going there is
Yeah.
hard.
Mhm.
And so, you know, using these tools ethically means using them in a way, first of all, that you are honest about what you're doing.
Mhm.
So, you know, there are, there was that American author who actually was lambasting AI, and then he left a ChatGPT instruction in his book or something. I don't know if you saw that. But, you know, being honest,
Classic.
if you are using it for your
So
writing,
busted. Mm.
say so. Say so. It's fair.
Absolutely.
It's fair
Yeah.
to other writers. You know, it's
Mhm.
not fair if you're pretending.
Mhm.
So it's the same sort of principles that take us through ethically through everything.
Mm.
Clarity, transparency, and doing the work. You know,
Mm.
doing the work, and the work of being an author is not just, you know, hands on the keyboard. It's emotional labor, psychological labor, spiritual labor for lots of people.
Mm.
So, you know, yes, you have AI and it does ABC, but again, back to that kind of being human thing.
Mm.
You know, being prepared to show up as a creative shows up to do the work in advance, to, you know, if you are using it, first of all, to sort out what do I think myself here? What am I actually creating? Doing your own outline, you know,
Mm.
pulling in any assistance that you wish to pull in and that feels ethical to you, but not,
Mm.
and then supporting, you know, supporting other authors.
Mhm.
You know, hate is never ethical. Um,
Never. That's a very
Ever.
simple to live
Yeah.
by.
You know, so
Yeah.
listening, talking,
Mm.
conversing, helping each other, respecting each other's decisions, all of these things I think are
Mhm.
really important as well, which are not mentioned enough, maybe.
Yes, and I know that the creative process makes me grow, and so to cheat on that is to cheat myself. Quite apart from cheating the reader and the industry and my fellow writers and all the rest of it, which I neither want to do either. But fundamentally, even just to take it on as a selfish view, you know, I mean, this work and this art, this is how we evolve, and to use something else to do that hard work simply means that I'll miss out if nothing else. But I did see, and I was really interested to see your last post. You talked about you using AI for editing at a certain point in a manuscript. So this was not first draft. This was what, a kind of third proof, something along those lines, or first proof. Can you just talk a little bit about?
765th, maymaybe.
Okay,
I'm one of
all right, good.
those. I'm one of those,
So
I'm
yeah,
afraid.
so just tell me at what point do you think, okay, because I know you just sort of put it out to readers to survey, how do you feel? You know, which I thought was interesting because one version had a slightly academic tone and one version had a sort of lyrical tone. And so what for you, and this is completely personal, I think this is where it does become personal. What's that moment for you where you think, okay, I'm really can't see the wood for the trees here. I'm just going to put this chapter to chat GPT and say, can you just give me your version? Where's your line with that?
My line with that is I treat it as a first reader.
Okay.
or a second reader. So at the point where I'm giving something to somebody else to look at, and we all have our first readers, it could be our spouse, could be our creative writing group or whatever. At the point where I feel something's ready for somebody to have a look at, I will
Mm.
ask Chat GPT to have a look.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Wow.
then, and my first questions will be questions about, so it's not at the level of what I put out there because of my belief in that value of transparency. And I
Mm.
wanted to, just say, here's something that I'm doing. And I do these things, and to invite that conversation if people wanted to have it. Yeah.
So
So,
what question would you put? If you gave ChatGPT a paragraph, what
mm,
question would you ask that
so
AI
So that
gen?
that
Yeah.
particular post was at the level of paragraph, and I just wanted to do a
Mm.
short post just to show people. But what I would generally be doing is giving a chapter and asking the sorts of questions that a developmental editor would ask.
Right.
And then when it's all put together, when the book is all put together, again, I will approach it. So I have kind of, when you've written a lot of books, you're less likely to use a developmental editor unless it's whole new
Mm.
departure, or you're in a very sort of a heavy world that's new to you. So I don't generally now invest in developmental editing, but I often will invest in 2 rounds of copy edits for all the notes and things that
Yeah.
I as sort of at that level, if you like.
Yeah.
So, well, I can get a developmental edit now for free.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I know I know all the developmental editors who are listening to me are thinking, oh my God, Corner Rothman.
Oh shit.
Yeah, going to put us out of work. I'll get my ass kicked when I go back to the Ally office again.
I'm
But
really grateful for your transparency. This is exactly the ethical guidelines that you are epitomizing them right now as you speak. So it's
yeah,
fascinating.
so what I want to say to editors and what I want to say
Mm.
to writers is this is only my belief, by the way.
Mm.
You editor friend and you writer friend may have a very different belief, and you may be right and I may be completely wrong. But from my observation and from what I see so far,
Mm.
I don't believe that AI is going to put anyone in the creative industries completely out of a job, except tasks that are pretty rote. And editing does not fall into that. To my mind, good design does not fall into that. And to my mind,
Yep.
good writing does not fall into that.
Absolutely
I'm,
not. Yeah.
I'm not saying that ChatGPT or any other AI will not be able to produce good writing at the touch of a button. I think it will. I don't
I
think,
disagree.
fine, exactly, great. Um, yeah, so I've just seen such a change between one, two, three,
Mm.
four, and five. Now,
Sure.
five is a step back, actually, I would
Is
say.
it?
But
Okay.
yes, but I would say that in time, there will be a capability of, and again, it all depends on what you define by good
You
writing.
say, how do you define
Yeah,
good writing? So
how
by
do you
my
define good
definition,
writing?
absolutely not.
Fine,
But
it's fine, because your definition presumably assumes soul and depth and all those human qualities that
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So,
I understand what you're
mm.
saying, but just back to the editor, just kind of finish
Mm.
my little side
Yeah, yeah,
conversation
no, please do.
then,
Yeah.
is just to say that I don't believe it will put you out of work. I believe that
Mhm.
you as an editor are possibly already beginning to use it yourself in your work.
That was my next question. It's certainly in
Yeah.
the mainstream. I wonder how many developmental editors are already, and whether they're being transparent about that with the authors
Yes,
when they sent
exactly.
notes. It
It's
would
a
be, I would love it. If anybody's listening who knows the answer to that, please get in touch or tell us right now.
Yeah, that's a great question, and one
Mm.
actually we're off to Author Nation in November, and we're going to be sitting beside the freelance editors people at that conference, and I look forward to having that conversation in depth about the two, because again, to me, it's about depth and nuance, and the
Mm.
two-way traffic between writers and editors that has always been there.
Mm.
It's kind of yeah, really important. And it's the same with design. Yes,
Mm.
If you've a good eye now, you can probably design a decent book cover. I wouldn't have said that was true until now. Um,
Mm.
but but a designer with those tools is going to
Is going
so
to do something
yeah,
magnificent. And I
yeah.
suppose is my feeling around AI is that it's incredibly useful and in the hands of, yes, a designer trained, knows what they're doing. Then you put this amazing tool in their hands. Then you do get something amazing. But of course, for those of us completely untrained, well, we can do something we couldn't do yesterday, but it won't be the same or as good as. And do you
No,
think at London Book Fair there'll be? I mean, I'm sure you're already thinking ahead to London Book Fair. I'd be interested to know about the panels and so on going on there with Ally, and who you can get to talk to and lobby and so on. I'll be there this year, by the way. So
oh great, and it'd be
yeah,
great to see you there. Yeah,
be great to
fantastic.
see you there.
Yes, we'll definitely. We haven't decided on the topics for our panels as yet, but we'll
Mm,
definitely be there, and we'll definitely be talking about these issues. I'm sure. Yeah.
mm. And the other, obviously, I'm just going to circle back to the big issue, which is how you and I first began talking, which is about visibility and kite marks and all of those issues for the indie author in terms of the reputation of what would have been called self-publishing. And I've got a question here, actually, which I'm going to read also from Anna Davidson. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a poet and a friend, and I'm just going to read hers out. She says, I'd love Ally to separate out its membership more by geography, the author's primary market. Amazon asks you what your primary market is, and Ally could too. And also by readership of what you are self-publishing, e.g. genre fiction, lit fiction, and poetry, so on. They said it's possible you already do this, but she hasn't found it.
It
Uh,
we do it. I'm not
oh,
sure
you
what
do.
hasn't. But is she a member?
She's a member, yeah. Okay, well, I'll just go on to
Yeah.
her last bit then.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
says,
Yeah. Yeah.
along the lines of what we've discussed before, what sort category of indie author are you? Because she could say, she said that Ally wouldn't force membership categories, not anyone, but it just feels like the next stage in the evolution of indie publishing. Something you can say to the book world if necessary. I'm an Ally, middle grade, sounds a bit more serious, helpful, which is sort of what she's touching on again, is this, how do we, while keeping it inclusive, which is what's so beautiful about the independent author world, we also allow for the authors who are really taking a professional stab at it and who are producing on a par with their mainstream um, peers, that we do get into bookshops and festivals and prizes and so on. So I think, can we just circle back on that a little bit and
Sure.
just tell me your thoughts on that, and are we moving anywhere, and do you think we'll get anywhere?
So, this is a question. This is a question comes from a couple of different places.
Mm,
And one of them is the wish to be included in
mm,
the wider ecosystem, if you like, the wider literary ecosystem. Now, everybody that I'm talking to now in the last 2 years, or certainly in the last year, the conversation is all the other way around. They want to know now. My son works
interesting.
with film. He says that for the first time, people are taking self-published work seriously. It's just
Mm,
beginning to sink in. So, to some degree, I think all of this is going to take care of itself. It's a time thing. We're in a frustrating sort of point in time where we're saying, "For heaven's sake, we've been here for a
yes,
decade and a half,"
yes.
and
And where are
they,
they finding? Where? Sorry to butt in, but just quickly,
yeah.
where are producers or anyone in the film? Where are they finding original independent work?
So one of the things that we're doing is we already bring people to our members, and our members' work is visible, but it's not easily findable and searchable. So one of the things that we're doing is we're creating, right as we speak, the Big Indie Author Bookstore, which will be searchable in through genre and every other way.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's one thing, one small thing that we are doing. I know that they are also searching Substack, um, Amazon KDP, and all the other platforms for those who are appearing, at the bestseller level.
Mm,
The problem, of course, with authorship is that bestseller doesn't in any way necessarily indicate the kind of person who gets, to talk on panels at
Hmm.
literary events. And the people who speak on panels at literary events make up a tiny, tiny, tiny proportion of the trade published sector.
Yeah.
The books that keep the trade published sector alive are not the books you're reading about
You'll never
in
have
the
heard of them. Yeah.
You'll never have heard of them. And they used to be kept down the back of the bookstore. If even sold through the bookstore, they used to be sent out in brown paper bags,
Mm.
Um, so again, it's back to your point of smoke and mirrors, of not
Mm.
understanding publishing. So what we're talking about here really is a particular genre of literary fiction, literary poetry, literary memoir, literary books.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about there is a perception that a literary author cannot find their readers unless they're at festivals. So I'd like to knock that one on the head first of all.
Okay, great.
That's simply not true.
Okay, good.
However, there's also the
Mm.
question that indie authors have a right to be at that festival.
It's
Um,
also true.
and,
Mm.
and, people are feeling that or feeling, oh, why am I
Mm.
not there?
Mm.
I find it
Mm.
personally frustrating as well. And,
Mm.
I'm always asked to talk about self-publishing. The odd time I'd like, somebody to
To
actually
actually
read the book,
invite you as an
maybe.
author. Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Radical
That's sort of
concept,
funny, not funny. Yeah, yeah, my
yeah.
goodness. Okay.
So,
If I ever host a literary festival, you're going to be my first guest on it, I promise.
okay, great. I look forward to it.
Good. Yeah.
So, for Ally, in terms of us dividing our members up into some sort of quality that, we would decide that will never happen.
Yeah.
That could never
Yeah.
happen. It would just go against everything we stand for.
Because
For us,
inclusivity is an absolute pillar of Ally.
inclusivity is just so important. And also, everybody in our association is a business person themselves. It's their
Hmm.
job to become visible to their readers. It's their job to become discoverable. It's their
Hmm.
job to bring the readers to position themselves in such a way in the marketplace that the reader understands the books and, opts for theirs. I absolutely accept, however, that in this particular genre, when there are so many amazing books being touted and shouted about in mainstream media, that can feel extremely frustrating. But
Mm.
I also feel, it's changing. And a lot of the books that you're seeing in bestseller, lists and things of literary, I'm talking about,
Yep.
there's an assumption that they've been trade published sometimes when they haven't at all. And a lot
That's
of them,
so fascinating.
yes. And because the author uses an imprint and, people just assume
Mm.
that. But it's not necessarily true at all. And in fact, if the literary author has done their job well enough, it should be completely indistinguishable. There
That's right.
should be no way of knowing either through the marketing because it is possible for an author to invest in the sort of PR that gets, you know, Penguin Random House or whoever. Obviously, loads of slots are reserved for them, but there is a lot
Mm.
of good feeling behind indie publishing houses, third party, and indie authors as well.
Mm.
So some of the things that we're feeling are maybe inaccurate. Some of them
Mm.
are in shift right now as we speak. And I do think this is a group of authors that are becoming more vocal and would like to get a bit more organized
Mm.
themselves. Our conversation was part of that. I don't in
Yeah.
any way want to give the impression that I'm saying it's not important, what people are looking
Mm.
for.
No.
It is
Yeah.
important. It's very important. And
Yeah.
it's important to us as an association as well, that
Mm.
everywhere that authors turn up, indie authors are there.
I have to
Um,
say, you were the first professional I spoke to who looked at. Said my rant privately to you, and you looked at me and said, "I totally get it."
yes, I
And
do.
I'd spoken to many, many other people who just slightly dismissed it out of hand,
They're
and the
afraid.
relief. Oh my God, the
They're
relief.
afraid.
I mean, we were on Zoom, but I could have hugged you at the moment of time. But do you, just to that point though, as well, do you think one of the big things that we can do as independent artists is also just the little section which is it is in change, is to shrug off that coat of nobody loves us and be like, come on now. Yeah, of course there are obstacles, but it is in change. And actually, as you say, there's evidence to show that that independent artists and independent literary fiction is making lists. It's just that we don't know it. Would that be something we could do to
It
kind of keep moving the dial?
definitely it's part of what we can do. And I think this group of writers, what we're trying to do is incredibly hard. It is one of the most challenging genre to work in. Books take longer to write generally, and there are fewer readers. You
Yep,
know,
all those
um,
things.
you're
Yeah.
looking for thoughtful readers who enjoy being challenged, and
Hmm.
therefore that's a smaller pool in the first place. And as I
Mm.
said, it's the most visible genre at the same time. So all of that is going on. And what
Hmm.
I suppose I would say is what is true always for us as independent artists, as creatives, we have to kind of drop all that. We have to drop
Yeah.
the obstacles, and constantly that our job is always to pick up, well, where's the opening? Where is the crack in this system? Where can I
Mm.
actually, what can I do to move my own
Mm.
personal game forward? That gets really tiring at times. And when we're really
Mm.
tired, it's very tempting to just kick at all the problems and think they're stopping us, but sometimes they're not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I taught at Penzance Literary Festival this year, and at the end of the class, one of the pieces of the class, one of the slides was about keeping your expectations really low, but keeping your standards like super high. Do you know
Lovely.
what I mean? And so really, because that's part of it, like produce the absolute best you can produce, because that in as well, that moves the dial. And yeah, there's an element, it is hard, but there's also an element of, and I say this to myself, stop complaining and get out there and do what you need to do,
Yeah.
because it is changing. And so it's a bit of it's a mixture of those two, I find,
And
and prove quality. If you prove the quality, that always speaks louder
speak
than any kind of adaptation.
speaks much louder than anything we can say. And the only thing I'd add to all the very good things that you're saying there, which I completely 100% agree with, um, is beware of the validation button.
Yes, it's such a good point. Yeah.
A lot of us who are drawn to do very hard things, sometimes there's something in our past, in our psyche, that's looking for approval from
Hmm.
some non-existent thing, and the chase that we had to go through back, when we had no choice, um, in some way kind of feeds that need. Validate me, please. Tell me I am good enough. Tell me this book is good enough. I have enough confidence in it. By the way, we never have confidence in our books, really. On a good day, maybe. On a bad day, not. And up and down it
Mm.
goes, no matter how many books we've written, and no matter
Yeah.
how many accolades we've had, no matter how many publishers have lined up to publish us. So just sometimes what we're looking for is, mummy or daddy to say we're good enough.
I
And
can hold up my hand to that. I mean, I absolutely, in my first novel, I had unknowingly, but I realized in hindsight, invested it with the job of getting my parents to see me. So it was absolutely crucial that it was picked up by a publisher, and it was. But of course, it didn't actually succeed in
do
my
the job.
parents. No, I've given it. I mean, you've got
No, it never
book, it is a
will.
book.
Yeah.
It succeeded in telling a story. It succeeded in looking lovely. It succeeded in selling copies. But what it didn't do was that secret investment, which I had invested it with. And it took a long time for me to understand that I was unfairly investing. I was weighting my literary work with this other job, and that was why I had this unbelievably and consistently disappointing ambition to somehow what I thought was noticed by, prizes and mainstream and publishers, but actually it was, as we've said, parents. So I think, I mean, as you've put so brilliantly, it's so important for anybody who's on, even if you're published by Virago, in terms of happiness and success and contentment, just to understand how much we've weighted and invested, because even if you take all of that out, it's still incredibly hard to feel confident about a piece of work and love it for what it is and get it published and all those things.
Exactly. And I think to your earlier point, as we do that hard job and as we, keep on keeping on, then we do grow to the point where we don't need the validation. And at that point, the work itself takes off as well to some degree, but there's
That's
no.
when they come running.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, da da da. But it's actually, we look back then and we realize the story was not the story
Yeah.
we had in our head. A whole different story was
Mm.
going on. And, we only learn that by doing. There is no
Yeah.
shortcutting any of that. And I think it's one of the very positive reasons that we set out to be writers, is that we do sense that there is something in that life that is going to
Mm.
give us a
Mm.
depth to our lives and a growth in our lives that we wouldn't get any other way. And I think that's kind of what keeps us there, huh?
It really is. And I think we've just gone over time, so it's kind of a perfect place to stop. But it's certainly, just to circle back to what we were saying about AI earlier, it's exactly that. It can do all those kind of things, but what it can't do is give that realization. And that what happens when you work on a piece of, a piece of poetry or a novel, and that sort of growth and realization is absolutely, there's no shortcut to that. And there's no shortcut really to learning the publishing industry, except by doing it. And I know that I'm 4 books in now, and I had no idea how green I was 5 years ago. I know now. Now I look back and it's terrifying.
It's
Um,
great. It's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
what's your ambition? Just to close for Ally, do you have more ambitions for it? Has
Um,
it about reached capacity?
oh gosh, no, no, no,
Absolutely
no,
not.
no, not at all. We've just taken on another full-time person now. So growth is ahead for us in a way that we weren't able to do before. As more and more countries and communities come into self-publishing, we're finding that their needs are quite different.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a
to
question about European
mm,
representation that Michelle asked me as well to ask. Do you have
yes,
a European rep already?
yeah,
She wasn't sure.
we don't have a European rep. We have ambassadors in different areas and different countries.
Okay.
Europe is very slow.
Yes.
Um, Europe is really, really slow. And I would say, a good 15 years behind the UK in
Mm,
terms of its trying to make anything happen. But we have lots of authors, lots of our members who are translating their work into Europe and doing very well.
mm,
And
mm,
we have lots of European authors who are translating back out into English. So we
mm,
deal with English speaking writers only.
mm.
Join Ally, where if you're writing in German as your first kind of language, no. But
Okay.
yeah.
But
So no
globally,
growth
do
is
you have
there.
global, does Ally have global ambassadors?
Oh
Is
gosh, yeah.
it? Oh,
Oh
yes.
yes, of
Okay,
course.
great. So
Oh,
whichever country
yeah,
you're in and you're working, you can find a bridge and a link to
absolutely,
Ally and all the resources. Fantastic.
absolutely. But as I said at the beginning, we live online, and
Yep.
there's no such places abroad. So
Good. I love
yeah,
that. Yeah, good.
that has stayed with us. That's become evergreen, and I think will continue.
I love that. And I love the idea. So it's just in the making, the indie book shop. Is that right? Is that something that's going to be on the
Yes,
website? Okay.
yes, that will launch for Christmas sales. So
And
that'll
how do
be
we
around
as
November.
okay, and how do we as is it members only, presumably, can stock their books
Yes,
on that? Yes. And how
yeah,
do I suppose you'll announce it on the website, will you? And then we'll all see how
yeah.
we
Oh,
can
there'd
get
be a
our books.
there'd be a big hoo ha. Don't you
There'll be
worry.
a hoo-ha. Okay, good, amazing. Will you announce it on your Substack as well, so that those who know you here can find it?
Probably, I get organized on my Substack
Okay,
for
please do that as well.
one of these days.
Okay. Amazing. Orna, thank you so much for your time. You are a font of knowledge. We didn't get into your own work, but you are a novelist and poet. Where can people find your work?
Ornaross.com.
ornaross.com. Okay, amazing. Well, I'm off to Ireland in a couple of days.
Oh, amazing. Where are you going?
So I shall send it your love. I'm going to a festival. It's the very last. A friend of mine runs Body and Soul. It's been going for 25 years, and this weekend is the very last one.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's at a castle halfway between Dublin and Galway. It's going to be really special. And I was at the first few, and I'm going to the last. It's called
Oh,
Await, and it's going to be really beautiful. So I'll be
it's
there,
called,
and then
sorry, it's called,
it's Awake,
oh,
like
oh, wait.
when somebody
Yeah, yeah.
dies. Yeah,
Lovely,
Awake.
lovely, lovely.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go up and have seaweed baths in Sligo.
Oh, sounds amazing. Say hello to lovely Sligo for me.
I will. I will.
Okay.
Well, and catch you for other exciting behind the scenes stuff, I hope.
Sure. We'll catch up on,
Amazing.
yeah, great. Okay.
Amazing.
Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks for all you do. Bye bye.
Thanks.